Welcome to this week's episode of Leaders on a Mission, where I'm joined by inspiring leaders driven by the impact of creating a healthy and sustainable world. Now, in today's episode, I'm joined by Luc Mathis, CEO of Meiogenix, a disruptive agricultural plant breeding technology company, really committed to helping feed the world's 10 billion people by 2050 sustainably. And I've got to know Luc pretty well over the last 5 years or so, and it's a real privilege and honor for you to come onto the show today, Luc. So thanks very much for giving us your time. I know you're a very busy man.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Pleasure. I'd love to just, take it a little bit back. I mean, everything that you've done in your career has been around innovation, sustainability. This has been a focal point and a drive for you. Where does it, just give me some context, where did it all come from?
Yeah, so if I go back a long time, like my father, he grew up in a farm in the northern part of France. And then he was a researcher in biology. He worked on photosynthesis. So it's kind of in my genes somehow. And on the side of my mother, it's a very different style, much more entrepreneur. My grandfather actually moved from the French Alps to Mexico, and there he developed a business and he made a fortune. So I think I have these two components in me.
Oh, really? Tell me, where did he make the fortune? What kind of business was it?
Well, it was textile. At that time, yeah, so it's a completely different thing, not so much in technologies, but I think it was, it grew something in the family of a sense of business and that, it's adventure. I think, that's what I like.
So did you always have this, the two aspects? Because obviously you went down a very academic route, right? I mean, you got a PhD. Remind me, where was your PhD from and what was it in?
So I prepared a PhD at the Pasteur Institute in Paris, and then I did a postdoc at Caltech. So, and really my goal at that time was to become a professional researcher. And I think when I was at Caltech, the PI was both a great communicator, a fantastic scientist, but also a businessman. So he started a company. While I was there, I was not involved at all, but he sold the company at $400 million to Motorola, I think. So I saw that. I saw the investors visiting the labs. I saw, the PI coming in a Porsche a few weeks after that. So, and when I came back to France, I felt that, okay, I got hired at the French CNRS, so I have a permanent position in research. But at the same time, I had this thing in my head, so I looked around, and one of my friends started a company called Selecta. So it was probably the first gene editing company. And after a few years feeling that I was not really at my place in academic research, I joined this company.
Yeah, got it. Well, Selecta just went on to do great things, right? And and that was back in 2009, right, when you joined there? So
earlier than that, I joined in 2006.
Did you? Okay. And see, I'd always thought, but bearing in mind I'm no biologist, as you know, or no geneticist, but I always thought the gene editing kind of technologies were a lot, a lot more recent, as it were, over the last 5-10 years, as it were. I didn't, interesting, back then, as it were, some gene editing technology. It would have been a very different environment, no doubt.
Yeah, and actually that was clear that all the pharma applications that we see now in gene editing, they were not really there. They were somehow in the discussions, but they were not really applied. So when I joined, there were two technologies. One was homologous recombination, and it was used broadly in pharma for animal models like mice. And that was like what I did at first, mainly to grant licenses to pharma companies who are using this technology that was invented at the Pasteur Institute.
Yeah.
And the second aspect was on the gene editing, and the pool was in agriculture, because genome engineering was a product worldwide that was a transgenic corn and soybean, and these guys they were following closely. And in 2006 we had discussions with Bayer, with Monsanto, BASF, Syngenta at the VP level. So as an apprentice business developer, I saw that, well, on one hand we could make some R&D deals, and for on the other side in agriculture it was product-oriented deals. So it's completely different, and I got much more traction in agriculture.
Yeah, no, got it. And tell me though, because it's interesting, your career could have gone in many different directions, even putting aside the, from the research to entrepreneur, but it seems to have been quite deliberate, the application and the use of some of this technology as it relates to agriculture. And I'm wondering where that comes from, and whether that was, by design, really.
By me, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not such a, no. There are different aspects. I'm more like an intuitive person. So obviously, I think I felt good in the farm, agriculture environment. Maybe there was something more familiar to me. And I actually, up to today, I think it's a professional environment where I like the people. I feel at ease with these people. And also a market pool. I was a business developer. You have to follow. It's not you are not pushing, you are pulled. So I was pulled by agriculture. It's not, there is an element of design in the sense that I can feel that there is a meaning at doing what we do, but there is also a business meaning. We felt that we could develop products without going through the 15 years of regulatory hurdle. So that's something we felt very rapidly, that there was an opportunity to go by ourselves to the market.
Yeah.
And that was something that, opened the door for a startup. That's why we started what would become Calixte.
Got it. Yeah. And Calixte is, so you started that journey, right? Am I right in thinking you spun it out, you spun the technology out from Selectis, is that right?
Yeah, I think Selectis spun it out.
Yeah.
And I was part of the journey. At the beginning, I was a business developer, and after 1 year, I became the CEO. So it was Dan Voitas, the scientist, and the board of Selectis that really launched it. And I was the business developer of the team. And since I knew very well, I spent 7 years talking to all these guys. And so I knew what the market was expecting in types of traits and products that everybody would understand. So I had this knowledge. I think that's why I became the CEO of this company. There was a search, but it was super early stage. I was motivated. That's how I got the position.
Absolutely, that's great. And it's funny, when you look at the world of the entrepreneur at the moment, you were able to move from researcher to business development to CEO really quickly. You didn't have to earn your stripes through large multi-cultural corporation, moving up the kind of ranks, actually. So that was your first experience of CEO, and that must have been a great learning for you, right?
Yeah, I was lucky, and I've always been lucky, I think, to have a good mentor and a great mentor. And I think I'm also quite coachable. So I think that's a mix of a part that comes from me. I'm open to learn, and I was lucky to have a great mentor. So Alain Godard was my coach. He was the CEO of Ron Agro, and that's great. And plus, I was also in meetings with VPs from, like I would say, I would mention Bob Reiter from Bayer. We had a negotiation at that time. And that's one of the key people from which you learn, you know, when you are a young scientist, business developer, CEO, and you are in meetings with people like that, you learn by being with them. You know? By looking at this type of guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, I know it's interesting what you mentioned about the being coachable, and it's interesting. There's always two sides to that, isn't it? You can have the greatest mentors in the world, but it's how you want to take that step forward is is really important. But tell me, what in that first position then, the learning, what was the biggest kind of hurdle or learning that you needed to do to make yourself CEO ready, really?
Yeah, so the big challenge is that you have a pressure from your investors. You have to deliver to clients because we signed a few contracts before launching the project. And at the same time, you have the scientists that, they have to deliver, but it takes time, you know. So that's at the beginning, I think I was really micromanaging. And Alain Godard taught me to set in place a reporting scheme where we set objectives. It's obvious, but then we communicate based on written reports, and that's much clearer for everyone. You don't call the guy, hey, where do you stand? Have you finished this? No, you have monthly, weekly meetings, etc. So it's much, and that was super helpful. I think that, and then the other aspect is that it was in the US, in Minneapolis, and my family decided to stay here in France. So I had to travel back and forth. And after sometimes after 1 year, I think I was almost in burnout.
How often were you doing that then? Did you have to come back at weekends, or were you there for a week and then back in France for a week?
Yeah, it was about 50% of my time there. So sometimes it was one travel a month, and I would stay 2 weeks. But sometimes I traveled 2 times, you know. So it was with jet lag, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, direct flight to Minneapolis. So
right, yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Look, this is tough. This is tough. You know, it puts a lot of pressure on an individual at such an early stage as well, right? And you were a bit younger in those days as well, right? So you're learning on the job, right?
Yeah, and being almost, for a few weeks after 1 year, I could really not wake up. I was in my bed, and if I would have worked maybe 2-3 hours in the day, that was a big day. So I decided to see someone else, a coach, a personal coach, in the US, and that's how I think I was able to overcome. Because Alain Godard was helping on how to manage a team, but this coach helped me to manage myself, and it was a kind of a new age, discovering new age, meditation, yoga, how to eat better, and it was a huge, personal and spiritual trip.
Wow.
That's something I continue, and that's
is it? Yeah. I always remember reading that in your profile a while back. I couldn't remember the meditation, but I remember the yoga basically. And just tell me a little bit about that, because I'm on a seeking and on that kind of journey myself at the moment as well. What when you think about the stress and the burnout, and then you think about the yoga and the meditation, what's it enabled you to do? How's it really helped you?
Well, it's all a question of energy. And when you are a CEO, you have, as I mentioned, you have to manage what's going on, keep the investors motivated, informed, and the scientists and the clients. And so that's the 3 pillars. And you are in the middle. And if you don't have the right energy, if you are not calm, cool, energized, relax, you can quickly, either overeat or start to drink, or, all kinds of bad habits that helps you kind of survive, or, give you the feeling of energy. But that's not the right energy so that's Every morning, I have a routine of 2-3 hours. I wake up early, just by myself. I do some bike every day. I write like for half an hour every morning. I have a very strict routine.
Oh, really? Okay. So what do you write? Do you write your goals for the day, your thoughts, your feelings? I mean, what
Yeah,
kind of...
whatever comes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's I analyze a situation, like why do I feel angry at a certain situation, and then I make some connection, and then it kind of release this inner conflict.
Yeah.
And once you release your inner conflict, then you can start the day with a completely different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. You always have this energy of someone to, who is, quite has a good energy about them, yeah, this is great. So how long does your morning routine take you then?
Excuse me?
How long is your morning routine? How long does it take you?
It's at least 2 hours.
Is it? Wow, that's a good time commitment.
Yeah, and it can be even more, during the lockdown, it was almost 3 hours.
Wow.
I would make a 1 hour walk, maybe a jogging, and yeah, that's very important to me.
Yeah, look, the journey of a first-time CEO, but a founder CEO, is a tough journey. Really, really tough journey, and it's a roller coaster.
Somehow, but I think I was also lucky to have a great team.
Yeah.
But that's something people always say. I have a fantastic team. In that case, that was I think I was able to, by making this connection, to make them feel at ease. And
Yeah.
But Dan Voitas from Minneapolis is obviously someone an exceptional individual.
Yeah, very much so, and well recognized and knowledgeable and well known in the industry. That technology was called Talon, right? I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, we started. Yeah, it was Talon. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. So tell me though. So because before you took on this position, you were. I saw you back in kind of France, and you were really involved with entrepreneurial companies. We did some work, I remember at the time, with Micropep at the time, and you were board advising there. And you seem to have a kind of portfolio of scenarios and situations that you were working with. And how do you reflect on that time? Was that a good time for you when you look back?
Yeah, actually in 2016, I stopped. I went back to France. One of my daughter was kind of needing attention, and so it was a time for me to stop the venture for me. It was like 5 years. It was good, and so I came back to France, and I left Selectis, and I was wondering what am I going to do? And I thought I cannot just do nothing or wait for something to come to me. And I started, I don't know, maybe 5 different things. I started a company on the human microbiome based on the IP from Cornell University. I started a couple of projects in agriculture. One working with Giacomo, the founder of Meiogenix, as an advisor. And I was also for 9 months the CEO of human microbiome and immuno-oncology startup from Gustave Roussy, so French Cancer Institute. So I was in different projects, and actually Meiogenix continued, but some of them stopped because either there was some relationship issues between the founders, or there was some difficulty to build a team on the technology that was too complicated. And I realized that, okay, I'm not really a founder, I like to arrive at a point, there is this 0 to 1. I think I arrive in project at 0.3 or 0.5 when there are already some things that have been done, but okay, and then people look around and what can we do with that?
Okay.
And I'm really this type of guy. And so I decided to go back to business development. And actually, I met a headhunter, and I asked this person, so where is there some good opportunities for people like me? And she said, green tech and business development. I said, well, it sounds good to me. So I called a few friends. I tell them I want to go back to business development, back on the, on the field. and I joined Global Bioenergy as a business developer, and it was already started. There was a huge number of possibilities, and when I went to a lot of conferences, and I felt the pool. The pool was in cosmetic. We had meetings with VPs and CEOs, whereas in biofuel, which was the other application, we had meetings, or bioplastic. We had meetings with science managers who had absolutely no budget. So that was different, and we ended up making a deal with L'Oreal.
Very different. It's very funny, the cosmetics industry, isn't it? The people and the personalities and the personas of people that you meet in that industry compared to agriculture. It couldn't be any more different, could they, basically?
Yeah, it's completely different. They are mainly chemists by training instead of biologists. So it's a different timeline. They talk about capex and off-take agreements. So it's a different story. But at the same time, it was a good experience to me because I knew nothing. I'm not a chemist at all, but I could feel the pull. I was sensitive to that. So that's how I helped, the management team make certain decisions.
Yeah, no, got it. Absolutely. And I remember, so you came back to Meiogenix full time before the Series A, right? It was about a year before, or?
Yeah. Actually, so I was in parallel to this business development job. I asked to have in my contract to be able to work with other as advisor, and I continue working with Meiogenix, and I helped them make a very significant agreement with Bayer, the Monsanto part. And so in end of 2019, we announced this agreement with Bayer, and I had sold this company on human microbiome from Cornell. So I said, well, I know well the guys from Cornell. Why don't we try to do something to develop there? It's a #1 university in agriculture and breeding. I know them very well. They like me. And in France, we will never be able to, develop a big story because it's the regulatory status is not there. It will be more difficult to build a relationship with clients. So why don't we do that? And they like the story, and so I signed as a CEO on March 9, 2020.
Okay, great.
2 or 3 days later, Emmanuel Macron announced the lockdown.
Yeah.
So I was hired on a mission to develop the company in the US, and I had to do that from France, from my home.
From Zoom, basically.
By Zoom. Yeah. And it took 1 year and a half to raise, to build the story. So I made for 6 months, I did a lot of non-deal roadshow, interviewing a lot of managers in breeding, in all kinds of, and to make a decision on what would be the plan, and then approach investors. And I was lucky to get the interest from Sofinnova Partners, and then we progressively built on that. Once we had the term sheet from Sofinnova, then we wanted to have US-based investors because it would be a mix of a French and a US story. And then because some of the people knew me or liked the story immediately, and we were able to close make a first close in July, and then BPI, the French sovereign fund, joined 6 months later.
Great. So who needs to go out and meet people face to face to close a Series A? It's amazing, actually. It really is. It doesn't sound like COVID really stopped you doing what you needed to do, basically. It sounded like you found a way.
Yeah, to me, I think it was I was lucky about that. I think it's also because I had a certain reputation in the field already. I'm 52, so it's kind of I had already 15 years in the space, and I think that for younger CEOs who were on their first project, I think it has been more difficult for them. So it's not like it's the COVID has been an opportunity for everyone, but I think it has been an opportunity for CEOs like me who had more already like a track record.
Yeah, absolutely, and a network for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so tell me about the company then. How, tell me about the core kind of mission and vision for Meiogenix.
Yeah, so and I correct you, it's Meiogenix.
Sorry,
No, it's fine. But it's a little bit technical because meiosis, it's the sexual reproduction, how pollen and ovules are being produced in the flowers. So it's meiosis and genix. So yeah, and it's fine. So I think there are three main purposes, and that's interesting to distinguish. One is on the competency, like what we can, the function that our product serve, and that's super clear. That's to accelerate breeding, to enable things that are not doable right now by any other technology. The second thing is the purpose is the culture, and I think it's very much science-based. So we want to have a team of fantastic scientists who are doing things. We have a team that has started in the startup incubator at Cornell in Ithaca, and they are really talented scientists who are actually doing the development of new crops. And that's a culture of doers, but are also developing products. So it's that's really the cause or the culture that we are focusing on. And then there is a cause. The cause is more like, and that's something that kind of assemble or that we share with all the startups and companies in agriculture and in agriculture biotech. We want to develop an agriculture where we provide solution for evolution when the climate is changing, and also evolution when the consumer trends are changing. They want more vegetable or plant-based proteins, and we want less chemicals in the field and in the food. And so we want all as a community brings this revolution or this ability to evolve. So it's not at all incompatible with more organic aspects. Myself, I buy organic most of the time, but I think it's important that we provide this opportunity for agriculture to evolve and to adapt and to adjust. And some things that regular technologies that were used in the past take too long, and we are too many, and the changes have to come quicker. And so in the cause, I think we create a community and in which we share goals. In the culture, I think each startup, each group has its own culture, that is, and people are attracted to the culture where they fit in, and the competencies, that's what differentiate all of us, each of us. We have all a specific something that we bring.
Oh, sounds great. Just a couple of things. When we talk about breeding and we talk about, what kind of products or how do you see the application of this technology, in your mind, your vision around it? What kind of products and how would it all work?
Yeah, so breeding is a complex science. You see companies like Bayer, Syngenta, these guys, they have made a huge automation around breeding. Imagrin, KWS, these large players. And so it's a number game. And because the crosses that when you develop a new variety, you cross two parental lines. And then there is this mix between chromosomes. And this is random. And that's why it becomes a number game, because what comes out of this random mixing, it has to be sorted out by marker-assisted breeding technologies, sequencing, and stuff like that. And then on the other side of the cycle, you create some diversity by creating a gene edit, by inserting a transgene, or by putting up some wild varieties. And then it comes into a random mix, and then people have to sort out. So what we do is we make this cross more rational, because we can choose the space, the places in the chromosome that we reassemble together, and that's our differentiation. And I think that's why we made this early deal with Bayer, because they noticed that it was something new, unique, and super important for their space. There's a potential to speed up the development of industrial crops, and at the same time, it enables to develop some more complex traits. So it's not like a single gene where you know the function. That's what you do with gene editing. You know a gene, you know the function, you knock out, and then you get something that has value.
Yeah.
Here, usually we can work with groups of chromosome domains where we don't know exactly the genes that are involved, but we know the function. And so that's completely playing with, and you can manage maybe 15, 20 such groups to create, bring back some flavor to tomato or to strawberries, and or create avocados that will never ripe, and so there are many different applications. We are at the beginning.
I love the sound and the impact of some of this technology, because you're right. All I've heard about in the last 5 years is gene editing, right?
And that's great. That's great.
Yeah, this is a very different kind of technology, and
yeah, that's different. We use more or less the same tools, but at a completely different time in the plant cycle, and that's where we have our IP, and that's where we think, and it's difficult. It's a moment in the plant cycle that is difficult to touch, and but we have the tools to do that. And if we can manage to make it, that can be a revolution similar to gene editing for agriculture.
It sounds great. Because my understanding is with breeding, I don't know if you're breeding a tomato, for instance, or you're breeding, these things, they can take 50 years to kind of to actually get to where you want to get to. If you're breeding something, if you're breeding something new.
Yeah, so let's look at what happened in the past. The driver was yield and shelf life. So they were on a mission to increase the yield and to make sure that the tomatoes that were produced could go to a grocery store, and then when you buy it, you still have a few days to eat your tomato. So that was the mission. And when they were doing that massively, they lost the flavor, they lost the quality, they lost, like what made the tomato great, They just kept the color. Okay, that's good. But now people want something else, They want to go back to something more elaborate. And for that, currently the demand in tomato is increasing. And so the seed companies are mainly focusing again on yield and productivity, because they need to match the request from people who want to eat more fruits and vegetables, so they focus on that, meeting the demand. And people are not working so much on I was at the tomato meeting like a few months back, maybe last year. Next one will be soon. But obviously that was the focus, and the other focus was to develop a breeding that would enable tomato to be managed by robots, so they have the right pedicle. it's not still on the quality so that's where we want to position ourselves, to do something, develop products that really meet also the consumer demand.
So a couple of things on that. Is it a different regulatory pathway? Like, for instance, if you do want to bring or create something in Europe, for instance, what does the European, can it pass through quickly the European regulations?
So I think that's unclear in Europe. That's going to be more clearer in your country, in the UK probably before Europe. But we notice that, so it's kind of similar to gene editing in the sense that we introduce transiently some tools, and then, but in the final product, there is no foreign DNA. And, but there is a positive trend. Our Emmanuel Macron made some statements that he was thinking that NBTs, new breeding technologies, would not be considered as GMO. So that was a big statement, especially for France.
Yeah, no, got it. So tell me, just in your mind, in terms of when you think about fruits, vegetables, new breeding varieties, what comes to mind for you? What would you like the company to kind of be responsible for producing in years to come?
I think right now we are focusing on tomato. Because it's an obvious choice. Technology is there. It's a big market. We think that for like fruits, I don't know. It's my experience with fruits developers that they are very conservative, but maybe for certain industrial application that would work. I think the food companies, they are really in demand for more sustainability. So one of the key traits that we are developing is disease resistance and quality. So, being able to bring that together, companies like Nestle, PepsiCo, they are basing very high value products on plants, can be cacao, coffee, oat, and so that they will be probably interested in this type of technology. And then we don't know, we will learn. We will present the technology to breeders, and there will be a certain pool. It cannot be a push from us. We can have certain ideas, but in the end, it will be breeders that will say, here there is a fantastic opportunity for you guys. So it's that's how it works. It has to be a collaboration. Yeah,
absolutely. You need to go where the best application is, and you'll learn that through the discussions, essentially. So it sounds like you're still on the beginning of the journey, right? You closed the Series A. What when you look at your longer term goals and plans for the company, what does that look like?
It's we want to develop a business model where we interact with the supply chain is so complex in agriculture that you have to interact. For instance, for row crops, corn, soybean, it's not our perspective to develop things ourselves. So once we have proven, how far we can go with the technology, the objective will be to license this technology to the seed developers but in fruits and vegetables, we think we can develop traits. So the ideas will come, we will develop the traits ourselves, we will license. And for food companies, we know that the way they work, they have a very closed loop system where they produce the things for themselves. So it has to be it's not really a service, but it's more like a tight collaboration on a certain product-oriented goal. And then we also want to develop, because that's a fun part of it, it's to develop our own products. And we know that our friends in gene editing, like Pairwise, Calix, Tropics, they are doing the same. They are developing their own products. So we will try this route. We know it's a longer route, And we know that as a community, we will develop path to markets to be more like direct. And for instance, we can maybe make deals with large grocery stores like Amazon, and then use the seed companies to distribute the seeds and to make the operation and make things available. So there are ways to develop new business models that we find very interesting and that are being developed by the community.
Absolutely. It sounds like the future is very rosy. It sounds a very exciting time ahead for the business, actually. So I think that's great. I'm just going to finish off, Luc, just with a few quick fire questions, basically. And what 3 bits of advice would you give to an aspirational co-founder?
Oh, I think what is important is that business is trust. That's the one.
Yeah.
Then in business development, you should go with no complex. That's super important.
No complex. What does that mean?
So you don't have to have fear, no fear, no.
Okay. I see. Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't mean that you have to be crazy or arrogant, but at least no fear.
Okay.
And the third one is that there is no rules in management. So you can believe whatever you want, but it's in the end, it's you can put some structure and then have some like reporting, but there is no rules. It's always a people thing. So
that's why you love working at such an early stage, because you create it as you go forward, as it were. Tell me, if you could have one wish, what would it be?
For myself, or in general in the world?
Yeah, for yourself.
I hope I will keep connected to my energy, find ways to remain internally focused. That's
okay. And for the world?
Well, I hope there will be no more war.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great, Luc. It's been a privilege having you on today. So thanks so much for coming on and being so open with your sharing.
Thank you, Simon, for giving me the opportunity to give a little bit of what I'm living and share that with whomever is going to watch it.
Thank you very much. That's